that 16 years after getting off the plantation, black men did not fight to get out of Jim Crow. They fought to have access to white women. I'd probably be saying they weren't shit either. However, I'm not going to say that because I know there are some black men who genuinely do want to do something. However, the vast majority of black men are doing absolutely nothing. That is just a reality. You're not doing anything about systematic white supremacy. You're not doing anything about mass incarceration. You're not doing anything about police brutality. You're not doing anything about these white women putting false rape allegations on you. You're not doing anything. That's just a reality. There's nothing
to dramatize this blatant injustice and to demand that the federal government not put a cent in this city unless it decides to face the realities of desegregation.
King and his followers were met with fierce resistance from the police. Public Safety Commissioner Eugene Bull Connor, backed by the majority of white residents, was determined to stop the demonstrations. Without enough volunteers to continue the protests, King and other leaders enlisted hundreds of young school children to keep the marches going and fill up the jails.
The civil rights movement in the 1960s put students in harm's way. Many black people were jailed, lost their jobs, lost their lives, attacked by dogs, all for the sake of being allowed to sit in white spaces, to be served in white communities, and eat at white counters, and to have access to white women.
Then on the second day of the student demonstrations, things turned violent. Police turned high-pressure fire hoses on the young people and set attack dogs on them. Birmingham civil rights leader Reverend Calvin Woods was there.
There had been some dog biting, some beating, some killing. Many people were beaten and spit on and put in jail, lost jobs. But those were minor things compared to what we felt we had to do.
The brutal crackdown was widely televised, and images of the event were seen around the world. Robert Corley said.
But 30 years earlier, before the Depression, there were many successful middle-class, all-black neighborhoods across the country. Black people had their own banks, their own grocery stores, schools, movie theaters, buses, churches, nightclubs, restaurants. This is a clip of an all-black neighborhood in Harlem, New York, filled with black-owned businesses. It looks peaceful, the streets are clean, everybody is respectful. And this first clip is of construction workers fixing the streets. And it's an example of when black people love each other and respect themselves, they can collectively demand respect from others.
In that neighborhood, in that community, everything that I could want was there. It was like a little city within a city. You had independent, parallel institutions, parallel economic, parallel religious, parallel political. Your father and your mother might work outside, but they would come back in the neighborhood to spend whatever money they had to spend. So the dollar actually turned around in the old Black Belt more than 6 times. So we felt a sense of independence. It was overcrowded. So it was sort of an optimism in the community. Though we lived in a period of the Depression, we were not depressed. We had a feeling that it was going to be all right.
Why then would black people be led out of their peaceful neighborhoods into white neighborhoods, into chaos and violence and suffering? How is it better for any black person to live under these circumstances instead of among other black people in middle-class neighborhoods in peace? As it stands now, in 2021, Black America spends all of their income in white neighborhoods, all $2 trillion each year, and Black America pays the ultimate price with their freedom by having to live under the dominant society's rules, regulations, and their systems.
It was on February the 13th, and we had the very first sit-in here in Nashville. And I took my seat at the counter. I asked the waitress for a hamburger and a Coke.
I said, I'm sorry, our management does not allow us to serve niggers in here.
The targets of the Nashville students were the lunch counters at the city's 2 largest department stores and 4 variety stores. And for the first time, the community was confronted with Negroes in places where they had never been.
You go to a counter. You do not request that the person sitting next to you get up and leave. You merely come in and sit down beside him, as any human being would do. You cause no violence. You have no angry words. You're friendly, and it sort of helps to project the idea that here sits beside me another human being.
Altogether, it was a moving feeling within me that I was sitting there demanding a God-given right, and my soul became satisfied that I was right in what I was doing. At the same time, was something deep down within me, moving me, that I could no longer be satisfied or go along with an evil system, that I had to be maladjusted to it. And in spite of all of this, I had to keep loving the people who denied me service, who stared at me.
During the early weeks of February 1960, the demonstrations that came to be called the sit-in movement exploded across the South. Within a period of 2 months, the movement had spread to 65 cities involving every southern state, with the exception of Mississippi.
This student is on the verge of tears as he reads a letter from his mother, who is concerned about him and telling him that he doesn't have to eat with white people.
I mean, I know she cares for me, you know. I mean, I know she loves me, but she just don't understand.
The new tactic came as a surprise, creating bewilderment and confusion in the white communities and even among the Negroes themselves.
Hey, this letter I got from my mother, it sort of disturbed me. It hurts me in a way, man. She said, "Dear son, I was glad to hear from you, and sorry, too, because I didn't sleep all night praying and crying and thanking God. He's been so good to you. What are you fighting for? You don't have a family, yet you remember who are helping you in school. It is the white people. What about the people of your race? Well, what are they giving you? Remember, don't hurt yourself. Remember, your advisor asked the white people to help you, and they did. So you don't want to fight the people who are trying to help you. Remember, God will straighten out everything if you just get in time. You don't have to eat with the white people, and you live all these years. Just pray and trust in God. You're not learning your lesson in school. God is nobody to play with. You're just making disturbance." See, she didn't even give her complimentary clothes or anything, man. She's really upset, man, but gosh, man. I mean, I know she cares for me, you know. I mean, I know she loved me, but she just don't understand.
Black women may be asking black men to do something they don't want to do, and that's fight for our freedom. Unfortunately, black men sees integration and being accepted by white people as success. And that is why the dating population among black men and white women is growing, as this seems to be their ultimate goal. That's why there hasn't been any major movement since the 1960s, and there won't be if it is dependent on black men. No matter how much destruction being integrated into white society causes the black race. They won't fight for themselves, for their children, for their future, and not for you.